Once in a small village, where the roads were dusty and the mornings began before the sun, there lived a young man named Kofi. Kofi did not have much. He had no big house, no expensive clothes, no car, and no money to impress anyone. His shirt was often worn out. His shoes had seen too many roads. His hands carried the marks of hard work, and his face carried the quiet hope of a man who refused to give up. Every morning, before the village fully woke up, Kofi was already on his feet. He carried bricks. He cleaned compounds. He helped traders load goods. He worked on construction sites under the burning sun. Sometimes he worked the whole day and still came home with barely enough to buy food. But even in poverty, Kofi had something many people did not have. He had discipline, he had faith, and he had a dream. He believed that one day his life would change. In that same village, Kofi loved a beautiful young woman named Amina. Amina came from a family that had more than his. She dressed well, walked with confidence, and many people admired her beauty. She was kind at times, but deep inside, she was afraid of poverty. Kofi loved her with a sincere heart. He did not have much to give her, but he gave her what he had: his time, his honesty, his loyalty, and his promise. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the village hills, Kofi held Amina's hands and looked into her eyes. He said softly, "One day, I'll give you a life you can be proud of." Amina looked at him. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that love, patience, and hard work could build a future. But as time went on, life became harder. She saw Kofi struggling. She saw him return home tired, hungry, and covered in dust. She saw the empty pockets, the uncertain tomorrow, and the painful waiting. At first, she encouraged him, but slowly, her heart began to change. The promise that once sounded beautiful began to feel far away. The dream that once gave her hope began to feel impossible. Amina started asking herself painful questions. What if he never succeeds? What if I spend my life suffering? What if love is not enough? And then, another kind of life began to call her. She started noticing men who looked successful, men with expensive cars, men with stylish clothes, men who walked into restaurants and everyone turned to look, men who spoke confidently and made poverty look like something only foolish people endured. One of them told her, "You are too beautiful to suffer with a poor man." Those words entered her heart like poison wrapped in honey. At first, she tried to ignore them, but the more she looked at Kofi's struggles, the more those words echoed in her mind. "You are too beautiful to suffer with a poor man." Soon, Amina convinced herself that she deserved better. Not better love, better comfort, not better character, better appearance, not better loyalty, better money. So one evening, she made the choice that would change both their lives. She walked away from Kofi. Kofi stood there, in the middle of the village road, watching the woman he loved leave him behind. His heart broke quietly. He did not shout. He did not curse her. He did not beg for too long. He simply watched her disappear into the life she thought would save her. And when she was gone, Kofi went home alone. That night, he sat in his small room with an old lantern burning beside him. His Bible was open on the table. His hands were clasped together. His eyes were closed. And with tears he did not want anyone to see, Kofi prayed. He prayed for strength. He prayed for wisdom. He prayed for healing. And he prayed that his pain would not destroy him, but build him. From that day, Kofi changed. Not because he wanted revenge, not because he wanted to prove Amina wrong, but because he knew that if he remained where he was, his pain would become his prison. So he worked harder. During the day, Kofi worked construction jobs. He carried cement, stones, and timber. He stood under the sun until his skin burned and his body ached. At night, while others slept, Kofi studied. He borrowed books. He learned business. He learned accounting. He learned how companies worked. He wrote down plans. He failed many times. He applied for jobs and was rejected. He tried small business ideas and lost money. People laughed at him. Some said, "Kofi, stop dreaming. People like you don't become successful." Others said, "You are wasting your time." Sometimes Kofi slept hungry. Sometimes he had only water for dinner. Sometimes he felt like giving up. But every time life pushed him down, he remembered the promise he made to himself. "I will not remain here forever." Little by little, things began to change. A small opportunity came, then another, then another. Kofi got a better job. He saved every coin he could. He invested carefully. He treated people with respect. He worked honestly. And over the years, the poor village boy became a respected man. He built his own company, Kofi Enterprises, a company known for integrity, vision, and impact. People who once laughed at him began to speak his name with respect. The same man they ignored became a man they wanted to meet. But Kofi never allowed success to make him arrogant. He remembered hunger. He remembered rejection. He remembered lonely nights. He remembered what it felt like to be poor and invisible. Meanwhile, Amina's life had taken a different road. At first, everything looked beautiful. The wealthy men took her to parties. They bought her gifts. They drove her in expensive cars. They took her to luxury places where the lights were bright, the music was loud, and everyone looked important. Amina felt like she had finally escaped poverty. She wore beautiful dresses. She smiled in expensive rooms. She believed she had made the right choice. But slowly, the truth began to reveal itself. The men who promised her comfort were not interested in her future. They were interested in the moment. They said sweet words, but their hearts were empty. They made promises they never planned to keep. They used her emotions. They enjoyed her presence, and then they disappeared. One stopped answering her calls. Another replaced her with another woman. Another left without explanation. One after another, they walked away. Each time, Amina told herself, maybe the next one will be different. But the next one was the same. The glamorous life she chased became a painful cycle of hope and disappointment. The gifts no longer made her happy. The expensive places no longer felt beautiful. The compliments no longer felt real. Little by little, her confidence broke. She began to look at herself in the mirror and wonder how she had lost so much of who she used to be. Years passed. The beauty people once praised was now hidden behind tired eyes. The confidence she once carried became shame. The life she thought would protect her became the very thing that wounded her. Eventually, Amina found herself alone. No husband, no stable home, no real support, no secure future. To survive, she began selling bananas in the market. Every morning, she woke early, carried her small basket, and arranged bananas on a wooden table beside the dusty roadside. People passed by. Some bought from her, some ignored her. Some looked at her as if she had always been there. She sat under an old umbrella, watching the world move around her. And sometimes, when the market became quiet, her mind returned to the past. She remembered Kofi, The poor young man who once loved her sincerely, the man she left because he had nothing, the man who had promised her a future. She wondered where he was. She wondered if he had forgotten her. She wondered if life had been kind to him. Then one rainy afternoon, fate brought them together again. The sky was heavy with clouds. Rain fell over the market, turning the dusty road into shining mud. People rushed under umbrellas. Vendors covered their goods. Cars passed slowly through the crowded street. Amina sat beside her banana stand, tired and quiet. Then suddenly, a beautiful black car stopped near her table. The kind of car that made people turn their heads. The market noise seemed to slow down. The door opened. A man stepped out. Clean suit, polished shoes, calm face, confidence in every step. Amina looked up, and her heart froze. It was Kofi. For a moment, she could not breathe. The poor young man she once doubted now stood before her successful and respected. But what shocked her most was not the car. It was not the suit. It was not the money. It was the peace on his face. There was no hatred, no pride, no revenge, only calmness. Kofi walked toward her slowly. Amina lowered her head. Shame covered her like a heavy cloth. She remembered everything, the words, the rejection, the way she left, the choices she made after him. Kofi stood near her table and looked at the bananas. Then he looked at her. His voice was calm. "How have you been?" Amina forced a small smile, but her eyes betrayed her pain. "Life has been difficult," she replied. Kofi nodded. He could see it. He could see the years of struggle written on her face. For a few moments, they talked about old times. Not deeply, not painfully, just enough to remember that once, long ago, their hearts had known each other. Then Kofi looked at the bananas on her table. "I'll take all of them," he said. Amina looked surprised. "All of them?" Kofi nodded. He paid her more than the bananas were worth. She wanted to say something, but the words were trapped in her throat. Kofi picked up the bananas and handed them to his driver. Then he turned back to her. "Take care of yourself," he said. And with that, he walked back to his car. As the car drove away, Amina stood silently in the rain. Her heart was heavy. She was not sad because Kofi was rich. She was sad because she had failed to recognize the value of a good man when she had the chance. That night, Amina could not sleep. She kept seeing Kofi's face. Not angry, not proud, peaceful, and that peace hurt her more than anger would have, because it showed her that Kofi had healed. He had grown. He had become everything he once promised he would become. And she had spent years chasing shadows. The next morning, Amina returned to the market. She arranged her bananas as usual, but something inside her felt different. She was tired of surviving, tired of regret, tired of depending on promises from people who never stayed. As she sat quietly, a well-dressed woman approached her stand. "Are you Amina?" the woman asked. Amina looked up, confused. "Yes." The woman smiled gently and handed her an envelope. "The owner of Kofi Enterprises asked me to find you." Amina's heart skipped a beat. Her hands trembled as she took the letter. Slowly, she opened it. Inside was a simple message. "Everyone deserves a second chance. If you are willing to work honestly, there may be an opportunity for you." It was signed Kofi. Amina read the words again and again. She could hardly believe it. After everything she had done, he was not offering revenge. He was offering a chance. A week later, Amina began working in one of Kofi's businesses. It was not a glamorous position. She did not enter as a manager. She did not sit in a big office. She started at the bottom. She organized files. She cleaned records. She learned how to speak to customers. She learned how to show up on time. She learned how to work with discipline. At first, it was hard. Some days, shame tried to follow her. Some days, she felt people were judging her. Some days, she remembered her old life and wanted to hide from the past. But this time, Amina did not run. She worked, she learned, she listened, she improved. For the first time in many years, she stopped chasing shortcuts. She stopped looking for someone else to save her. She began building her own future with her own hands. Every evening after work, she wrote in her notebook. Her goals were simple: keep learning, be consistent, add value, build my future. And slowly, Amina began to change. Her confidence returned, but this time it was different. It was not confidence built on beauty. It was not confidence built on attention. It was not confidence built on men, gifts, or promises. It was confidence built on discipline. One evening, Kofi and Amina met again at a company event. The hall was full of people. Soft lights glowed across the room. Guests laughed, spoke, and celebrated the growth of Kofi Enterprises. Amina stood near one of the tables, dressed simply but beautifully. She was no longer the same woman who had once sat broken in the market. She had grown. Kofi walked over to her. For a moment, they looked at each other in silence. This time, neither of them was looking for love. They were simply two people whose lives had taken different roads. Amina smiled softly. "Thank you," she said. Kofi looked at her. "For what?" "For giving me a chance when I didn't deserve one." Kofi was quiet for a moment. Then he replied, "Life gave me chances when I didn't deserve them either. Sometimes the greatest success is helping someone stand again." Amina lowered her eyes, not in shame this time, but in gratitude. From that day forward, their story was told throughout the city. One person succeeded through perseverance. The other succeeded through learning from mistakes. Kofi's journey taught people that poverty is not the end of a person's story. Amina's journey taught people that mistakes do not have to destroy the future. And both of them discovered one powerful truth: a person's past does not have to determine their future. Sometimes the greatest blessing is not receiving everything you want. Sometimes the greatest blessing is losing everything that prevents you from becoming who you are meant to be. For Amina, the journey was only beginning. For the first time in many years, her future would not be built on promises from others. It would be built on her own strength, her own discipline, her own determination. And maybe that was the real meaning of success. Not only becoming rich, not only proving people wrong, but becoming strong enough to rise, humble enough to forgive, and wise enough to build a future from the lessons of the past. Because life can change in ways no one expects. Some people rise through perseverance. Others rise after learning from painful mistakes. But in the end, what matters is not where you started. What matters is who you become along the journey.